So, welcome, Bob. Would you like to introduce yourself to our viewers?
Oh, I sure will, Susan, and thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. So I've been a coach, a relatively new coach, past couple of years. My experience has been mainly in the technical area. I spent some time out of college working on privacy advocacy, working with some nonprofits. And then I made the jump or the pivot over to technology and spent over 25 years in cybersecurity. And uh, near the end of that time, I was in leadership and working with management and leaders throughout the world. Around the time of COVID, I took a sabbatical and decided to come to do coaching full time, which is what I enjoyed when I was a manager. And I've been a full-time coach for the past couple of years now.
Yes, congratulations. I know you got your PCC this year, so congrats.
ACC, but that's okay.
ACC.
I would love. I'm working on the PCC though.
No, absolutely. Good, good, good. So our fireside chat today is informal. And what I'm interested in is a bit of reflection, I guess, really. So if we could take a moment and look back at 2025, can you think of a moment where you've observed a meaningful moment between human connection, technology, and coaching?
Yeah, I think the one that came directly with for me was I presented at the ADHD 2025 conference last month, and my topic was on the potential risks of using AI with coaching. And I what struck me was the reaction, and was that there was some anxiety, there was some fear and anxiety, but there was also curiosity. And what I found was that clarity can replace fear. And as people were, you know, hearing my presentation and asking me questions, I could see that as as things became clearer, there was, as I said, some clarity to it. There was less fear, there was less anxiety. I had people, ask, well, I want to use AI, but I don't know where to start. I've been using AI, but now I know to be cautious about my integrations. So it's again, knowledge and just knowing how to interact with AI can, a little bit of education goes a long way,
Mm.
basically.
And because that conference had ADHD as a theme, or even the core purpose of it. Is there anything particular or emerging that relates to neurodiversity, coaching AI, being human, etc.?
Yeah, I think there is this need. Well, I could speak as a coach and also as someone with ADHD. Uh, there's a need to have that human connection. That AI can certainly do things from an executive function level. It can help us with tasks and help us, organize projects. Perhaps more than it's even more helpful than perhaps a neurotypical person using AI. But as far as in relation to coaching, there's still the need for that human connection. There's still the need to have um, someone to talk to about some of the internal talk, some of the negative messages that go along with some neurodiversity diagnoses. Uh, it's relating to humans. It's relating to someone as a coach. An AI coach can help you remember when to do a certain task. And it may give you, it may prompt you with some affirmations or some positive talk, but there's still that need to have someone on a coach at the other end to really understand what the empathy, what you're struggling with. Um, I think that's very important, and also in a private and very safe environment, which of course is essential for coaching. Um, we hear stories about AI, I don't want to add to negative stories, but certainly there, people should be cautious about how they use AI, what they tell AI. Um, and so someone with ADHD obviously is, that's a diagnosis that many people may not necessarily be public with. And so there's that extra layer of, I'd say, caution or need to be aware of how to use AI.
Hmm. And you've mentioned the need and value of the human presence in coaching where you have neurodiversity um, and particularly ADHD. Um, is there is it is it essential that somebody needs to be neurodiverse in order to coach people with neurodiversity, or is there enough training or awareness around the how we might need to adapt our practice to serve the needs of those with neurodivergent um, patterns?
That's a great question, and I would say that there is a level of education that someone um, should have either, if they want to specialize in neurodiverse clients, definitely I would say that there's a level of additional coaching education that goes along with that. If if neurodiversity or ADHD is not a niche for you, for example, it's certainly coaching practices, the ICF Code of Ethics, the core competencies certainly can they're still in play. They're always in play. I would say though that I would caution coaches um, when they feel like they might be um, over their skis a bit. I go, that there might be some unease within the coach. Is like, oh, I don't know if this is a great topic for me to be in. To listen to that intuition, and if it gets to be too much, then refer out to someone who's trained. I don't want to discourage coaches to not have ADHD or neurodiverse clients. Is just to be aware of where that line then becomes, okay, is this primarily an executive function ADHD concern that this client has that I may have to refer out.
Mm. No, I think, thank you. That's helpful. And I guess as we're in this space now in 2025 of, being more aware of AI coming into coaching and the benefits of that, as well as some of the concerns or threats that you've mentioned. But as we experiment and learn with it, what principles guide us in keeping AI human-centered, ethical, and inclusive?
I would say the and part of this carries over from my time, full time in cybersecurity and in privacy, is again I use the word clarity. Being aware, or having the clients be aware of what how I use AI, if and when I use AI, and to disclose and be transparent with if it's being used at all. Personally, I don't use a lot. I don't use AI much with clients. I use it more for, other administrative and marketing material, but not necessarily with clients. Um, but I can see it coming. I can definitely see you using AI summaries for notes, for sessions, for follow-ups. Again, especially because working with ADHD clients, in executive functions, follow-ups are critical. The in-between times from sessions can be very helpful. And that's just one point. There's other things where it can be helpful, but um, again, just being very clear with clients how you're using it, if you're using it at all, and also, then there comes the data retention policies, the privacy policies, all of those things that follow. I don't mean I say that not to overcomplicate things, but again, there are just some very key points just to remember, as you're using AI, as you're integrating AI into your practice, um, transparency is key for your clients.
And consent if you are.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay. And if you can imagine one shift that could most positively shape the next chapter of coaching, what would it be?
I would say that hmm, I would say that I would like the coaches and I would say coaches in general, to be more curious about technology. I think that was one of the things that struck me the most, as I transitioned from full-time the tech world to coaching, is that I see many coaches either resistant or have a limiting belief about technology, much less AI. I would say technology in general, and I would urge coaches to be curious, and in some ways to coach themselves through that limiting belief about technology, because whether we like it or not, it's going to become more and more integrated into our practice and into our lives, even more than it is now. And I think those who have an open mind, those who have a growth mindset with technology and not view it as a limiting or fearful or anxious thing that they have to work with, uh, I think that that would serve them well, is to
Mm,
have that curious mind. Even as simple as I'm not good at technology yet. Again, just
exactly.
using some very basic coaching um, skills and methodologies in embracing technology.
Mm. Is there anything else that you would like to reflect on, or things that have, you've observed themes, or as you're collecting your thoughts about this year, what would be the highlights, the lowlights, the things you want to treasure, or maybe things that have surprised you?
Um, I would say, and this applies to there are some instances in coaching, but in general, I would say if we're going to look at AI in particular, it, the speed at which AI is evolving is astounding. It's crazy to think about just how it's evolving. Conversely, there are also gaps that remain that I think are going to take a while to catch up to humans. And so I think the fear of AI replacing people, replacing jobs, and replacing coaches, for example, I don't see that. I don't see that, at least in the near term. Um, it it is strange how why, as AI is evolving and doing things that we never imagined even 2 years ago, there's still humans have to be interact with it, and you have to verify what it's giving you. You have to maybe fix and edit things. There's still the human touch. You still have to be involved, and AI is not going to do your job. You have to be involved. And so the two seem to be contradictory, but the reality is where we are right now at the end of 2025. um, uh, I would suggest that people embrace AI and not be fearful of it.
Mm. And there's a phrase that I use around this: AI is more than a tech shift. It's an invitation to reimagine what it means to be human. And
Yeah.
in the instance of coaching, reimagine what it means to be a coach, and to find the differentiation for yourself that connects you to your coaching practice, to your clients, and kind of not worry about AI as being something that either is going to take your job or compete with you, because it really isn't. It's any views from you on that, or reactions?
Oh, completely agree. Completely agree. I mean, I would say that where AI might replace certain things, again, would be more of a executive function. Did you do the thing?
Hmm.
Did you do this thing you said you were going to do? Or how are you doing with this? And so it's that type of follow-up, but that's, I would say, you know, very basic level one coaching. It's not, that's almost, it should be taken for granted. It's the next level of where coaches should be living, is that's where AI is not going to, that's where AI can't live.
Mm.
It's it's the work of coaches who've been around, who know what to ask, who look for the human, the emotional intelligence, or the reaction, or that slight little smile, or that slight little body language tweak. that's where coaches can make their mark
Mm,
and to really do well by their clients when they
mm,
bring that and they elevate they raise the bar with their practice and how they work with their clients.
mm. Yeah, I think a helpful way of thinking about how to start with AI in your practice is what transactional things can AI do for me such that I, as the coach, can do more of the transformation with my clients.
Yes, very well said. Yes, I totally agree.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for this fireside chat. It's been illuminating and yeah, thank you once again for your time today.
No, thank you for this opportunity, Susan.